Welcome to another great episode of Cloud and Clear, the special CEO series. I'm very excited here to be in Denver, Colorado today at the headquarters of Quantometric. Before I introduce the founder and CEO, please, if you like this kind of content, you want to see more of it, please like and subscribe so we can keep bringing it to you. Please welcome to today's episode, the CEO and founder of Quantometric, Mario Ciabarra. Welcome, Mario.
Thanks, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Can we do one of these without being awkward? Yeah. All right.
Love
I
you,
appreciate
man.
that. I love you too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for making the trip out. I know it's a windy day, so navigating the journey.
You know, I've been waiting to tell a story for a long time, and it was not until we launched the series that I was like, this is how I'm going to get Mario to sit down with me. I'm going to fly down, go to headquarters, come to Denver to see, where the magic happens. But look, Quantum just hit 100 million ARR. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a huge milestone. But this is not the first thing you've ever done. So I always like to level set with people like yourself to kind of tell your story of where you even started, where'd you come from. I know this is not the first thing you've done, but let's, as far back as you want to go, I'd love to hear the story and to share that with our audience.
Well, we were just chatting about, I'm the youngest of six, so a family of 8, tiny home outside of Philadelphia. My dad was an immigrant, grew up in Italy. And I think there's a little bit about that story that you can relate to as well as he landed in the United States with my mom. They didn't have much money. And I think there's like a little bit of energy of that taste of the American dream that my father had kind of transferred down to us. My siblings have all been extremely successful. I'm really proud of them. I think your family is a great example of it, mine as well. But I guess just fast forwarding a little bit, I went to Penn State, majored in biochemistry and molecular biology, got a job. My first job out of school was at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I was extremely fortunate. They took history, English, science, math majors, and taught them how to program.
Wow.
Really what I learned along that journey is I have affinity for coding. I love it. I've always loved it. I don't know how I got into biochemistry, but programming was something I've always been passionate about, even at a young age. And the other thing, when I started, I remember being in 5th grade and starting entrepreneurial endeavors. And I started my first startup at age 16, if you can believe it. But my real first tech startup was when I was 25. I was fortunate enough to sell that first startup at 26, and the financial freedom from that was pretty amazing. I just really got a moment in life to sit back and say, wow, what is, existential question of like, what is life about? Right. What do you do next? Right. So a little bit of the journey, happy to go into more detail, but this is my 3rd official tech startup, and I do love every day, Tony.
I love that background. It explains a lot about just sort of how you think and how my experience isn't working with you. But as we jump into the quantum story of what you've built, I love to level set for the audience just a foundational understanding of what is quantum, like what is the product and what is the problem you're solving.
I love to just do it back and forth to kind of give you a little bit of explanation. And, and actually I'll tell you a little bit about what we've been doing at Generative AI in this story, if you don't mind me just talking about a little bit about what we do. But have you ever, when you were flying here today, imagine your flight got delayed and you're sitting in your airline app and you're trying to change a flight. And I feel like this is a pain point that we've all experienced. You try to change your flight in the app and it doesn't work. And you know what most people are gonna end up doing when they look ahead at the counter and there's 300 people in line? Yeah. Do you know what people do when they can't get to the counter, can't get assistance, and they're trying to change your flight?
Cry?
A little bit. There's a little bit of frustration and tears, but they call, right? They call call center. And you know what happens? If you're lucky and it's all set up correctly with your phone number, hi, Tony, how are you? And then you go off and explain, hey, listen, I'm trying to change my flight. Oh, okay. Oh, you're trying, in the app? Hold on a second, Tony.
Different group.
Yeah. Hi, Tony, how are you? Right? Like you've experienced this, right? Yeah. Imagine instead, when you call your airline, hi, Tony, it looks like you're trying to change your flight to Denver, but you got an error in the app. I'm really sorry about that. Can I help you with this or something else? And if you really look at what's happening in that, like all of these companies, you can be an airline, it can be a telco, it can be a bank, it can be a healthcare provider, it can be a retailer. We work with the world's largest in every one of those categories. They have data about what Tony was doing. Of course. They do. Of course. They struggle at analyzing that data in real time. So what we're able to do at Quantometric is obviously collect the right moments that matter in your digital experiences, whether you're on a website or an app, And then we're able to analyze that in real time and connect that with the points that matter. So obviously call center is a great use case. What about the digital analyst is trying to figure out, oh my gosh, I just had a spike in people trying to change their flight and got an error. Why? Well, it might be an API error. It might be a new release just came out. It might be a third-party provider that's not working. It could be the page isn't loading. It's slow. There's a JavaScript error or some problem with an API in the app or whatever it might be. There's a myriad of issues. We've all experienced them. How do I get to the root cause of a problem very quickly? And if you work at any of these companies, you might say to yourself, hey, Mario, I've got 10,000 different problems. I don't need you to tell me about my problems. But the very simple question to ask is, what are the top 3? And can we tell you that within seconds of them happening? And unfortunately, if you give any day or week or month, that list in the prioritized order is constantly changing. So how do I think about what is the priority for my customer's lens? Because I often go into organizations and I speak with different folks in product, in tech, in marketing, in design, in DevOps, and they all have a different tool and they all have a different priority. And if you ask them what's your top priority today, but you go ask each one of them, they give you a different answer. What if you could get the entire organization aligned, not because of their functional silos, but the most important part to every business, their customer.
Customer experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think, look, that is the ultimate battleground, I think, for not only winning new customers from our perspective and sort of how we serve other businesses, but the ultimate battleground for retention and repeat customers and all of that, right? So we're not necessarily going to differentiate like this, this airline is better than the other airline. Well, like they're all going to get you there, right? But the ones you stick with and any of the products or services that we use is, I think, how well do they know me and how well are they able to anticipate my needs and then resolve the issue when something's happening. And I love that you brought up the phone call example because, I don't know, maybe in this generation too, it's like people don't want to pick up the phone. Part of the reason people don't want to call is because it's often like it's just a terrible experience. Very long wait times. And then, if you pick up the phone on the other end, you're going to ask a bunch of questions because you don't know anything about the customer. And then you get transferred and ask the same questions again. Like, how does your technology compress all of that?
Yeah, and so this is where we get to talk about generative AI. So Google Gemini Pro helps us, if you've used any LLM that's available, it's really good at summarizing. Say, summarize this book. And then we're all wowed. We're like, wow, you took the moments that matter and you summarized it. And you can say, give me a one-page summary, a one-sentence summary. And it's really amazing at conforming and shaping to what desired output that you want. That's exactly what we're doing with quantum metrics data. So getting the pieces that matter, it's hard to figure out, what actually matters during the journey. And I think some of the secret sauce in why an LLM is so good at this is it has the context of, hey, you're trying to change a flight or check in a flight or book a flight. And so when you have that context and then you give it the right shape of data, which is, we can talk a little bit about getting the right data to the LLM, because I think that's a critical ingredient to this success. But if you get the right data and you get a great LLM like Gemini Pro, you get this incredible response. And the thing is, we've tried doing this in the past. We tried for years at like, how do we do it? But we found so many edge cases, it just wasn't good enough. We never released the product. Right. And if you look at it today, when we use Gemini Pro, I mean, the wow on people's faces. I had a gentleman who's been in this industry for 20 years. He texted me on launch day. He said, he works for one of the top US retailers. He texted me, I have tears in my eyes. This is so good. Because he's been doing this for 20 years. He knows how much work it is to do this manually. Yeah. And now the LLM is summarizing in 3 seconds. Yeah. Tears in your eyes from software. Yeah, I tell you, Tony, that was a great moment, like that we really knocked it out of the park with this product.
I love it when, industry leading platforms are correctly implementing this new world of Gen AI and including LLMs into the core products, because a lot of our customers are being asked, like, how are you adopting AI? Yeah. And people tend to default to thinking of like, oh, it's code that they have to write. It's software that they have to create. But actually, one of the best ways of getting a competitive advantage in your own innovation journey as a customer is to actually adopt the right platforms from the right software companies who are making it, innate and built into the solution itself. And I think that's a great narrative. I know you're at Google Next, kind of telling the story as well on the retail main stage. And all this digitization of experiences, it still feels like we're extremely early in how good the customer experience can actually be.
Yeah, and I think it's that simplification of like, no one needs more data. I dare you to ask anyone, any CEOs or anyone that you really speak with, like, do you want more data? Not really. Like no one, I think there's a data saturation. I think it happened around 2006. I think some of the things that I'm seeing over the last 20 years since that data saturation is like, how do you use data? And one of the things that we always advocated at Quantum is like, let's get that data and make it available to our customers within about 3 to 5 seconds. I didn't have a great story about why it was so important. Yeah. And I look at kind of the field and even speaking with customers like, yeah, Mario, some of our data is available an hour later, but why should I care that you have it 3 to 5 seconds? And we had a couple use cases, but they weren't always so compelling, like, oh, I need it in 3 to 5 seconds. I think that example in the call center really helps connect the dots of if you have your data and it's available in real time. And then the next part, which is the most important part, and you can analyze and share that understanding within the seconds. I think a lot of people have missed this last step. Okay, data is available real time. How do you take advantage of it in real time? I think that's what the era of generative AI is ushering into these enterprises. Okay, I've always had data. Maybe I had it real time, maybe not. And I think that's going to become forefront in the discussion. Okay, I need this data right now. And then how do I analyze that data? And I think that's what's going to really shape customer experience. And I'll give you a great example, something that like we can all relate to. Imagine you put a couple items in your cart. Now, it should be no shock that within a day or two, you get an email saying, Tony, you left a couple items in your cart. We really want you to shop. Let's finish this, right? Now, imagine you were going through checkout and you couldn't sign in, forgot your password, and the reset password button didn't work. Or imagine your credit card got denied. Imagine something during that journey didn't work. And then you get an email saying, please check out. Now, you want to check out, but you can't for some friction point that was happening in that journey. Wouldn't it be amazing that when they sent that email to kind of nudge you, that they knew the context? Hey, Tony, it looks like you had a password reset problem. Hey, look, we fixed it. We'd love for you to check out. Like how amazing would it be that conversation?
It would feel like magic.
Right? Yeah. And I think that's what we expect in the, and it's not the future, it's today. Like this is something that our retailers are implementing today. This call center use case is what something our major enterprises are implementing today. I think the expectations that consumers have and how they interact with brands, imagine you interact with a human being in a store or at the airline counter or you're a healthcare agent and so on. Like imagine that empathy and care that happened in the physical one-on-one can now happen on digital. And I think it can happen even more efficiently because, like today analysts work with 1 to million. Like you have one analyst in a company and they work with 1 million people. They don't have the ability to scale to the 1 million people with the empathy that you can on a one-on-one. Imagine that generative AI can empower the team members in these organizations to actually deliver on what their mandate is, which is I need you to be efficient and deliver to 1 million of our audience today.
It can. I mean, I think that's the potential. And I think every organization in this economy is under like cost pressure. You can't hire 1,000 analysts, right? You just can't, even if you wanted to have the best customer experience. But also on revenue, like how do you grow revenue? We all personally have experienced the bad workflow where it's like something gets stuck, doesn't work. You're like, I don't want it bad enough. You're just not going to buy it. Or the reverse of that, which is something you kind of wanted, but it's a good experience. And the experience is so good, you end up buying it. So I mean, that's, I think, is the potential, but it's not obviously limited to e-commerce. It's, all these customer service use cases as well. But look, I know that, you talk about your background, PwC, you learned to code. You're one of the few founders that I know at this stage that still codes. And I know, but he also told me that like as soon as this slew of new GenAI technologies came on, you literally started like coding and tinkering and for the past year, right? Like trying all the models. I love for you to explain how you ultimately, landed on Gemini and the Google stack. I know you built your company on Google from day one, but as far as new technology, you can still adopt anything you want. Of course, Google allows that, right? Open, right? You can use anything that you want. How'd you land on this? Because I know you've tested everything, like personally tested.
Yeah, when you say day one, we built on Google, I would say maybe day 0.5 because in the beginning, like I wasn't, it was 2015. I wasn't, and Google was a small player back then.
You're right.
And so I was like, Amazon was a big provider back then. I'm like, okay, maybe we should look at Amazon. They're the kind of default like choice in this industry. And I went and tested everything and looked at all the pricing. And then I tried Azure and then I tried GCP. And what I found, and I actually wrote an article I'm a Forbes Tech Council, and I wrote an article. I want everyone else to have to go through all this work. And this is what I kind of summarized in that Forbes article. Look, you're going to get better performance for less cost, and you can get that same performance in the other cloud providers, but you couldn't get it at the cost. And because we had so much disk write and so much compute and so much analysis in the database side, we wouldn't have been able to create a successful company. So going with GCP early on was really important. But you're right, when it came to this new technology, I'm not going to default, we have a great relationship with GCP, so let's choose them. So we went out and we looked at OpenAI, we looked at other LLMs, anything from Meta and so on. And really, just for me, it comes down to cost and capabilities. I don't want the most. I'll be honest with you. I don't need the most capable LLM, although I already know what the answer is for that. I need the one that can do the workload that we need to achieve at the best price point with the right SLAs. Yep. And yes, you've already told the answer. It was Gemini Pro. And what's really exciting for me is like the speed at which it's changing, because if you look at like some of the problems that we're trying to solve, we have large amounts of data to analyze in LLM. I think if you look at, I think we've all had experience with OpenAI, with ChatGPT. My kids have had it, my parents have had it. Like I probably, you and I have both had that early on. But the early on experiences I had were I could only ask so many questions until it said, hey, start a new chat, because the context window was so small. So hopefully, for those that don't necessarily understand what that number of tokens means, it's like you can only ask so many questions where you have to reset its memory. Right. And that context window has been growing exponentially. And with Gemini Pro 1.5, it's expanded to 1 million tokens. And the prior winner to that was 128,000. So we saw an 8-fold increase in just a few short months. And so that's actually enabled us to solve different types of problems than we were able to solve just a few months ago. So I think like if you look at, who's winning this LLM battle, it's for sure. I've got my bet here, and I don't own any Google stock. It's real, and it's great to be a partner of GCP, but I try them all, and just very objectively, GCP is winning.
That's why I think you're like the best person in the world to answer this question, because I know we've been talking about it for many months, and there was periods where like, well, this is doing this, and there's like a gap here, and then, but Gemini 1.5 comes out, and it was like the watershed moment.
It was.
that liberated you and the technology, and Felix, the market's excited about that. The stories you tell me, which we can't all share with names, but the type of organizations that are looking at quantum today, it's remarkable.
Well, I don't think we talked about what we called it, but we call this generative AI solution Felix AI, Tony, for those that are just tuning in. And Felix AI is this ability to take a look at a digital journey on a website or app and summarize it in seconds. And I tell you, like I've been sharing what quantum does for 9-10 years now, 9 years. I've never had a moment where I've looked into people's eyes and like sea levels are dilating, like, wait, show that to me again? Because you can understand a customer's 30-minute journey in 3 seconds. I've got this funny story that I used to work at GNC in retail when I was a kid. And part of the journey of quantum is taking that same, when people walk into a store, how do I understand who they are? It's like taking that same kind of like desire to understand what a customer does on digital. It's a lot harder when you look at log files and charts and analytics to understand and empathize with the customer. So that's what the kind of journey that quantum's been on. And then I think about generative AI and what it's layered on with Felix AI. And funny enough, just a short while ago, my mom had texted me that she was frustrated trying to buy something on GNC. And my first inclination is, Mom, you're 84 years old.
Yeah, is it user error, Mom?
Yeah, exactly. You're not digitally savvy. We all have our moms and dads that sometimes get frustrated during their digital journeys. So I'm like, Mom, relax. You probably hit the wrong button. But then I remembered, GNC is a customer of ours, and I said, Mom, do you mind if I kind of look up your session, try to figure out what happened? She's like, sure. So I went off and looked, and I found that a weird thing had happened. She had gotten to the checkout page, and she was purchasing $65 of vitamins. And when she got to the checkout page, the order in which the numbers were displayed were kind of backwards. It said like subtotal 92, total 65.
Weird.
It was, and then it had discounts applied below it. It was just a weird, and it confused my mom. So she didn't check out because the ordering of the totals were weird for her. So we went back to GNC, we showed them what had happened, and they went and fixed it. My mom bought her vitamins. And it was really cool. And this is like the type of work that our customers do every day. But how many messages can we manage from any one of our audiences? It doesn't have to be my mom or yours. It can be just anyone having a friction point. how long does it take for us to understand? And with Felix AI, with Generative AI using Gemini Pro, we're able to get that understanding of what my mom's experience looked like in about 3 seconds. And then we can click another button that the Generative AI solution prints out, which is quantify. How many other people look like my mom on their digital experience that got to the checkout, but then left because they had a weird display of numbers? And so imagine being able to quantify that in just seconds. And I think that's empowering the digital analysts of all these enterprises of understanding all the people that hit frustration. Because you can imagine, my 13-year-old daughter, she shops online. My 87-year-old dad shops online. They open bank accounts. We all go on trips together, and my daughter's checking on her flights. Yeah. She can check in. My dad struggles. Like, how do we make this technology accessible for people from all backgrounds, of all ages? How do we make it simple? How do we make a great customer experience? And then using generative AI to help us understand and quantify those experiences. I mean, this has been a game changer for our business, for people to, finally understand, oh, that's what you do. You help us understand in seconds, but had previously taken us hours and days to understand, like, where are the friction points? What can we improve?
I love how straightforward it is ultimately to convey the ROI of implementing, your solution, right? I think that puts you in an advantageous position when talking to customers.
Well, Tony, let me mention, and that whole story I just told, how important SATA was for our journey. Because yes, Gemini, like I didn't really want to engage with SATA to say which one's the best, right? Like that was a personal journey that we had to go on here at Quantum. But once we had realized that Gemini was more advanced than the other technology that are out there, and then engaging with you, I remember that you gave me a call and I sent a few emails, and Miles got involved in the team. And man, I cannot thank you enough, because this has changed our business. It has changed our trajectory. Our customers are now finally understanding the impact that we can have within their organization within seconds versus let's spend a few weeks together. Yeah. And I cannot thank you enough for that, force that SATA came in. I made a few phone calls. You guys jumped in, I cannot thank you enough for helping propel our business at a greater speed.
Now we're talking about all of our top customers. It's like, how are you going to use this? And like we went back and forth. We saw each other a couple of times. Mario, how are you going to use this? And it's awesome to have the opportunity to help you kind of get on the platform and unleash this new set of offerings and really expand the market opportunity, I think, for you guys. But this is what I love about this business. Like, our growth and Google's growth is completely contingent on your growth and success. So like, you can get better, instead of
when we joined the GCP team as a partner, I mean, we had $175,000 in ARR, and as you mentioned already, we've just surpassed last quarter $100 million in ARR, or 2 quarters, I guess, at the end of last year. And what an amazing journey! And I have felt like this whole time, both SATA and GCP, incredible partners. One of the most confusing parts on the journey for me was like a statement, a sentence like this: "Let's help reduce your cloud bill." Like, what kind of partner that's selling cloud wants to help me reduce my bill? And it's not like you're trying to reduce what we deliver. It's like, how do we optimize and make our technology more efficient? And it's not about how much we spend. It's about what you just said. It's like, how much can we grow together?
Right.
And that long-term partnership. It's not like how do I make the quick buck? This is my perspective from SATA and GCP. It's like, not how do I make the quick buck, but how do we create mutual success together? And to have a partner that's invested in your future. For any future SATA customers, I mean, all day long, I'll tell that story about this is a journey together of creating success.
In the spirit of trying to tell the future, I always also like to ask towards the end of, what do you predict is going to happen to the market, to this industry, to digital experiences, to quantum, next 2 to 3 years? Where do you see the industry going?
I don't follow hype cycles, Tony. Like, you got NFTs, you've got big data, you've got blockchain, and like you can go through the last decade of hype. Yeah. I saw GenAI come out and I threw it in my mind, put it back into that hype cycle motion, and I'm not going to get involved. But John Chambers from Cisco is on our board, and John called me up and said, "What's your GenAI strategy?" I'm like, "Oh, John, thanks for asking. We'll get to that later." He didn't like my answer, by the way. And so he then called our CRO. He said, "What's your GenAI strategy?" And I don't think our CRO had a great way to communicate because we didn't really have one. And then he called our CMO and said the same question.
This is a great board member.
Oh, it's great. He was not going to take no for an answer. And then the CFO, like, "John, you're calling my CFO and asking him about our generative AI strategy? Like, what is going on?" But then it took a moment for me to understand and listen Probably John's, because he's a great human being. He's a great leader. He's a great sales team member. And he, I mean, crushed taking Cisco from 70 million in revenue to 40 billion with 80,000 employees. I mean, what an incredible success story he has. But if you look underneath, besides that he's an incredible human being and has such empathy for his teams, and he cared so much about making customers happy, which is, I think, was why we're so aligned on this business. Yeah. He was really good at seeing around corners. I don't know if you know this, but he's dyslexic, and he was forced to think about problems in a different way. And so probably his number one talent for business is he sees change happening. And what he saw with GenAI coming out, he saw change in a way I just did not see. I saw hype. Yeah. He saw change. Yeah. He forced us to really look at GenAI and what we could do. And that's the story I just told. And I honestly cannot thank him enough, because I think we're going to see a massive disruption in every technological space. Totally. So that's my prediction for the future, a faster disruption cycle than we have ever seen before. And I think about, you say, Mario, choose the winners and losers. I think it's super obvious. It's going to be about data, and it's going to be having the right data in the right moment. So, yeah, again, I said it earlier, I think a lot of people have a lot of data. Do you have the right data? And do you have it at the right moment?
Do you have the insights
exactly,
and the actions
that
the data is suggesting you should have? I think that's been the challenge we're talking about for 10 years.
And it's deciphering not just having a lot of data. What's the right data? I need the exact data to solve this type of problem. If you have too much data, it actually might be a problem. This is something, the patterns I've seen in the LLMs. If you send it the exact right data, you're going to get a great summary, for the kind of problems that we're trying to solve. If you send it a ton of extraneous data that's not going to help the LLM infer what's important, you are going to mislead that LLM to give you the wrong answer. So I think it's about getting the right data at the right moment and getting it distributed to the right part of the organization. So we talked about retargeting, we talked about call center, we talked about the product manager, we talked about the digital analyst. You can think about DevOps. Hey, there's an API that's broken. I talked to DevOps folks, and they have all these APM tools that are awesome, but they don't have that data connected with their business or with their customer. And until you do that, it's hard for them to prioritize what's important from the business lens, or obviously, as we talked earlier, the customer lens. So I think it's going to be the winners and losers are going to be figured out by who has the right data in the right moment and for the right shape for the problems that they're trying to solve. So it's not a hard prediction to make. I think we are all seeing that all come together with generative AI. And I think there's a weird moment that I'm seeing where, as a computer scientist, if you'll call me that, we've had this, 100 years of programming where if you give it a specific set of data and you write the specific set of code, you're going to get the specific answer every time, what computer scientists might call deterministic. And we know what we're going to run. If we run the same program over and over, we're going to get the same answer. With generative AI, it's kind of flipping its outcomes where you can give it the same data every time and you're going to get a different answer. And they're going to be similar, but they're not exactly the same. And I think it's going to require a shift in the way that we think about how do we use technology, how do we use software, and what kind of problems can we solve, and what kind of outputs can we expect. And it's not always the same, and how do we handle that, and so on and so forth. So I think there's going to be some getting used to this kind of different paradigm that we're having here with generative AI. But if I speak on behalf of our customers and the impact it's already having, I'm really excited about not only our future, but the future of generative AI, because it's, I'm a technologist. I love tech. You might call me a geek in the world of tech, and it's changing so quickly. I've never seen a technology cycle that's changing on a monthly basis in terms of the scope and scale of the problems that we can solve. We talked about the context window, the token window that these LMs are able to process. And it's changing so quickly. The amount of problems that we're able to solve with this technology, it's just going to scale way faster than we can imagine.
Look, you're generally excited about this business and this company. You always have been, but I've almost never seen you this excited.
Yeah.
And John Chambers sees it, you see it, a lot of other people see it. And I think that gives me a lot of confidence that this is not just another hype cycle at all. And I also feel confident that you bet on the right technology, who's going to evolve with you and take you there. And I think, even though you had almost a full decade of tremendous growth and success, I feel like the future is brighter than ever before, and you're in a tremendous position with the customers you have, but the customers you're going to get, and the way that the product is going to evolve to put you in a tremendous position. So I'm very excited for you. It's an honor to be by your side, helping you, and work on this journey. So thank you for the opportunity to be a partner and be
Tony,
a customer.
the honor is ours, and on back of my shirt it says passion, persistence, and integrity. I interview every team member that we're honored to have join our team, and I'll tell you, I think about the same thing when I think about advisors and board members like John, and then I think about the same thing with partners. I love the team I get to work with at Quantum. I've interviewed them all, and I look at, are they passionate? Are they persistent? Because you never lose if you just keep trying. Mm-hmm. And then do they have integrity? And I look at John, and he is an ambassador of those three. I look at the rest of our our advisors, our board members, but our partners, Tony, like Sada, obviously like GCP too. I want people that I love working with, that I know are going to have integrity, that are going to get things across the finish line that can count on. And that's what it's like working with Sada every day. So I love working with the team. I love working with you. It is our honor to have such an incredible partnership with both you and GCP.
Appreciate that very much. Thanks for doing this. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Amen. Love you, man. Love you.
Thank you. Love you.
Thank you for listening to Cloud and Clear. Check the show notes for links to this week's topics. And don't forget to connect with us on Twitter @CloudandClear and our website, sada.com. Be sure to rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app.